Hello, everyone. Welcome to an impromptu show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. I normally don't do emergency streams, but unfortunately, this was something I had to do as we got the breaking news about an hour or two ago, and that is in regards to an injury update on Alexander Isak. So, if you're not aware, this is what was tweeted by David Ornstein a couple of hours ago, and the tweet is that Alexander Isak set for period on sidelines with suspected leg break from challenge in Liverpool win against Spurs. Liverpool yet to comment on severity, but scans poised to confirm fears of fracture to the left side. Recovery time typically a few months. So at the minute, we don't really know what the extent of that injury is in terms of the length. Is it going to be where he's out for 2 3 months because it's not a major fracture or anything to that nature, or is it something where it's worse than what we thought? Still early to say. Initially, when that tackle happened, I thought it was a knee injury, but when you're looking at it, yeah, his leg was pretty much trapped in between um, Van der Ven's legs. So the way he sort of landed, or the way it was, forced on him, it looks like a severe injury, unfortunately. So normally leg breaks, it depends on what part of the bone is broken or damaged. I think that we won't see Sack until April. I think 3 to 4 months is what we're sort of guessing right now. Um, but it's an absolute crazy situation that we're in, because if you look at a tackle, and this is a question I wanted to ask the chat, should Van der Ven receive further punishment? Because we have seen it in the past when a player has been fouled in a reckless manner, and they may receive punishment. My initial answer will be no. I don't think he will receive further punishment. Is that correct? No, it's not the correct decision. He should receive further punishment, because just because he scored the goal, it doesn't mean you take away from a bad challenge. If he didn't score that goal, he may have got a penalty, but at this point, I don't really care about the footballing element of this situation. The player has pretty much, broken a leg. It doesn't seem as severe as, if you go back over the years, the likes of Jibril Cisse, it wasn't to that, it's not a tibia fracture or anything like that. It's not to that extent. It could be like a small bone in his leg that's been broken, but of course they take time to heal depending on where it is positioned. So it's one of those things where we'll have to wait and see. But I do think Van der Ven should receive further punishment, because that was an awful challenge, and in the end, it is looking like it could be a leg breaker. So I don't know. We haven't got confirmation, but my guess is that he will be out for 3 to 4 months, which is a, a huge amount of time. That basically reaches us to around April. Um, the season pretty much uh, ends in May, late May. So, what do Liverpool do? Do Liverpool go into the market and find a short-term solution, or whether it's a player that's a free agent right now, whether a player could be signed for a um, loan term or anything like that? So, we'll have a chat about that very shortly. But let me go through the chat as I see a few comments popping up. Daz always said, "Is it a bad one?" Ozzy has thought. At this stage, it's still a bit unclear. I thought it would have been hmm, a bit of a light injury, where maybe a slight knock on the ankle or something like that, a sprain. I was expecting it to be that kind of news. For it to be a leg break, I'm quite surprised by that. So I do think it's bad in terms of what we had expected, to be fair. Um, but also big up, Bo. Hope you're well. Broken leg probably 3 months. Yes, depending on the extent of the damage. Um, you've had players like Jibril Cisse who were out for a long, long time, you know, and he had 2 leg breaks. I remember Eduardo had a leg break as well for Arsenal, and he was out for about 9, 10 months. We've had players like Jamie Carragher who've broken ankles They were out for 6 months. Harvey Elliott broke his ankle a few years ago as well. He was out for about 3, 4 months as well. So just depends on the extent of that injury. But yeah, it's a strange one to be fair. Botox, how did he walk off with a broken leg? Who knows? I don't think it was broken like, when Jabril Cisse broke leg, you could see, his leg like flapping like that. You're just thinking about it. It's such a crazy sight. And then obviously his bone, popped out through the skin, which can of course lead to other issues, infections and all that sort of stuff. So um, maybe that aggravated it from him putting weight on it. Maybe a stretcher should have been called rather than him trying to walk it off. And some will say, "Well, he's a soldier. That's why I did it." I listen. If you broke your leg or you've damaged it to an extent, d- don't need to prove anything in that matter. If they've suggested a stretcher, please just take the stretcher. That doesn't mean you're stronger than anyone else. You have to protect yourself at that time. So if there was a sort of a census that it could be a break, the stretcher should have been pulled out onto the pitch, in my opinion. Van der Ven should have seen red Aussie. Yeah, I agree. I think because it led to a goal, I think that's why it kind of just evaded from people's mind. And it was like, oh, he scored. Doesn't matter what happened before that. And this kind of challenge, slightly different in terms of where it was on the pitch, but it reminds me of the Pickford and Van Dijk challenge. Yes, that tackle happened off the pitch, so that's why he never got punished. But in terms of the way, pretty much like scissored his leg and it's just like, made him, I don't know how to describe, like just clench onto it, and then that led to that break. So it's in similar kind of fashion, he kind of trapped his leg, and obviously because the players wear studs or blades, probably jarred his foot on the grass, and it's like twisted, and that could have led to that a bone being broken. We don't know what extent it is right now, but I think he should have seen red. But will they revisit that? I doubt it. Of course, they should revisit it. It has to be done, but I very much doubt that is going to be the case. Van you mean it? Did Van der Ven mean it? I think so. It's hard to say. I don't really know, his history in terms of him being a day. I'll be honest with you, I think he tried to make the block, um, but just went in a bit too aggressive, in my opinion. So I don't think he did. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. But nonetheless, for me, he should still have been punished for what happened. Why didn't the ref see it? Ozzy, God knows. Ref was probably just watching the ball and didn't really thought much of it. Maybe he just, hurt himself a little bit of a knock. So at the time, maybe didn't think it was as severe as it's, appeared now, to be fair. That's not me defending the referee. That's why you have VAR. But maybe they were on a lunch break. I don't know. Both I thought it was an ACL, to be honest. ACL is going to be a very lengthy injury, a huge setback for players as well. So ACL would have been a tricky one, in my opinion. Could VR have checked it? They could have, but I don't know. Maybe if he hadn't scored, they would have checked it because there would have been two incidents where it's like, oh, is it a penalty? So when they check that, then they maybe come to realization, actually, that's a really bad foul. And maybe then he would have got punished for it. But because he scored, it felt like it was just like wiped out. And it's like, oh, you got your goal. It doesn't really matter how that goal happened or what happened after that. And it is, there's four, you got your goal, you should be happy. That's what it felt like to me. So yeah, very frustrating. Whilst it's not is probably raging at home right now because Chiesa has to play more. We'll speak about that because he doesn't really have much of a choice, does he? Um, but Chiesa's stance could be completely different right now. He might not want to stay at Liverpool because of his treatment from the coach. So it's not a good position that we're in right now. Why do you think Richarlison hates us? I hate him so bad. I don't. Well, I think you might have tuned in yesterday. I don't normally swear on my shows because I try to keep it PG. I have, young family members that watch me sometimes, but I couldn't hold it yesterday. He's someone that really, really annoys the hell out of me. I hate him with a passion, and I don't normally say that about a professional footballer because I feel, I hold them, you know, with huge respect because of what they do, and it's, for me, it was always a dream to be a footballer. So I can't really insult someone, when I haven't made it, if that makes sense. But he's someone I genuinely hate. Um, And why do you think he was a blue? He was a blue, wasn't he? So it's taken a bit too seriously, if you ask me. But some players are just naturally idiots on the pitch, and he's definitely one of them. That's it. Isn't Cody back next week? Yes, he is. So he should be back in training next week. So that's a boost for us. That's a bonus because I do believe that Cody Gakpo can play that striker role if needed. But it's going to be interesting. Does our transfer strategy change in January? Who knows at this stage? But also with Charleston, Bruno Fernandes still are effing shit houses. Yeah, definitely those three are top of my list as well. To lose two big like, so is Isak out for the season? Oz not for the season as it stands. We're not quite so sure. Um, but I think he'll be out personally until April. But if someone's out until April, I don't mean to laugh, but look at Isak's time at Liverpool so far. He didn't have a preseason, so he was already below schedule in terms of his match fitness. And whenever we've played him, he'll play okay, pick up a slight knock, and then back again and slight knock again. So he's been in and out of the team due to injury, due to match fitness. So this is a player that's not going to hit the ground running as soon as he's back fit. So for me, even if he makes a few appearances towards the latter stage of the season, he's not really going to have an impact, in my opinion. So unfortunately, we kind of have to rule him out for the season altogether. Mentally, physically he could be available in April, May, but I don't think you're expecting him to start or you expect him to have a huge impact after an injury like that. Mentally, you have to manage him correctly as well. He might be a bit worried when he's going into physical challenges now. So you have to use him a bit more sparingly, in my opinion. So in that case, I would say it puts him in a situation where we can't really identify him as a viable option. So that's why Liverpool have a big decision to make in January. What do they do? Do they stick with the transfer strategy that they have, like bringing in a Semenyo, or do we get another attack on top? We'll have to find out. Stephen, I think he'll want to play in the World Cup for Sweden, right? Or did Sweden not qualify? They didn't qualify. They lost in the playoffs, as confirmed by Bowl as well. Um, yeah, so I don't think I think they have a sort of like a wild card option where they might have a chance, but from what I know, they didn't qualify or they haven't qualified as it stands. Bowles, could these injuries ruin slot? Do you know what? As silly as it sounds, it might not. And the only reason I say that is because and I don't mean to be disrespectful because if you guys know, I've been vouching for Isak for a very long time. That's been my favorite striker in the Premier League for the last couple of years. And I've always said this is the guy that I want. If I could sign any striker, this is the striker I want. But this season, he's barely been involved. I know he's played games and he scored a couple of goals here and there, but he's not been a stand-up player, as in he hasn't played consecutive games, in my opinion. So because of that, I don't think we're gonna miss him as much. And that's also down to the great form of Ekitike, who's been scoring the goals whenever he plays. He's really been influential in the team. So I feel like in terms of the short to medium term, we have to look at our squad. Can we utilize players to play that role up front? I think we can. I think Ekitike will now know he's the main guy, and that might give him a bit of a boost of confidence. And then you've got the likes of Gakpo, Chiesa, even Salah for me should be playing a bit more centrally based on his career right now. So I think that's a viable option. So we've got quite a few players that can play up top. So it's not end of the world. And if we sign a Semenyo as well, as an example, he's a player that can play up top if needed. So I feel like we can suffice until the end of the season, but who knows? It will come down to the coach. Does he have faith in his players to play that position? We'll have to wait and see. National League playoff that gives them a second chance. Oh, okay, fine, fair enough. Could we actually lose against Wolves now, Ozzy? I don't think so. I don't think um, it changes our position. Of course, he came on and scored, but he only played for 10 minutes. He came on as a substitute, right? So in terms of our first team, I think we should be fine. But I don't think it should hamper us too much. If I'm being brutal, it's just a huge blow for the player because he's come and joined Liverpool, and it's not just the price tag; it's the quality of the player. Hasn't found his rhythm due to not having a preseason, but has had a few setbacks in terms of little knocks here and there, and hasn't really found his rhythm. And yesterday, scored such a good goal. Maybe that could have been the catalyst of him scoring many goals or staking a claim in the team again. But yeah, it's just a shame to how it panned out. But also Rio as well. Yeah, but I see Rio more as a wide option. I don't see him as a striker. I don't think that's his role. So in terms of the players I've listed, your Gakpo's he can play up top. Chiesa can play up top. Salah can play up top, in my opinion. Rio, I'd rather utilize him as a wide option, if I'm being honest with you. So you've got three strikers there. So, and if you sign a Semenyo, Semenyo has played up top for Bournemouth in the past. So that's four players that can play up top. And we don't have to play a 4-4-2 diamond, and I know that's my formation. That's the formation I want the team to play. But if you look at the squad, maybe we don't have the numbers to play two up top. Maybe three is the better in terms of having one striker in your team and then have backup for that person. Then you've got other players playing the wide roles. So maybe we just revert back to a 4-2-3-1, and that gives us more depth for that central striker role, if that makes sense. Um, just got a comment here from Ozan said, "Yo, Aussie lad, chat. Big up yourself, Ozan. Thank you for your comment and thank you for tuning in. I know it's late in the UK, but for me, this is something that had to be done. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and getting involved. So I have just got a comment here from Bo. Bo says, did you see that Semenyo wants United and City Aussie? If that's the case, bloody hell. City, I would. I actually would. He could be a viable option on that right hand side, I guess. But Doku's doing really good on the left, so I don't know if that's the club that he should go for. But look, whatever he decides, will be his decision. I really like Semenyo. I'm not going to deny that. But if he wants to go on and move to a United or a City, then that's his decision. But from a footballing point of view, I think Liverpool would suit him better, and even Arsenal because that's his boyhood club. But they probably have better options, or not so better. I think they have more options in comparison to the other clubs. So yeah, I think so. I was gonna say, is this considered an emergency stream? I think so, to be fair. Um, because I believe it could really hamper our season. But after looking at the squad and having a sort of a logical, thought about it, I think we'll be all right. But I do feel like if we can address and sign an attacker this January, it puts us in a bit of a better position. But it goes to show that fans were like, "Why are we signing two strikers? Why are we signing Ekitike and Isak?" This is why. Because if anyone picks up an injury, we're screwed. If we only signed Isak and didn't sign Ekitike, now we'll be in a bit of a predicament because who comes in to play up top? You'll have to put Chiesa, and Chiesa's not even rated by the coach. So who knows? He would put Sabozlai as a false nine. I don't know. This coach is always avoiding Chiesa in the starting lineup. But in this situation, he'll have to utilize him at some point. Boss is on Indy Kyler. He retweeted, I think. Check it out. Yeah, so I've directly got the source from David Ornstein. That's the one that Indy retweeted earlier on today. Uh, Honestly, I really hope this doesn't scupper our top four chances. I hope not. To be fair, I genuinely believe we won't make top four under the current squad or manager. I hate you in terms of your faith or your lack of faith for the coach. I still feel like we could get top four. Um, but that's not a success in my opinion. That's the bare minimum that Liverpool should be finishing the season. And if we do achieve that, that's not me being slot in again. I voiced my thoughts on slot. I just don't think he's good enough to take us forward, and I will stand by that until I see you know sort of radical changes in our team, in the way we play, in terms of personnel. he becomes a man management type of coach. Until that day doesn't happen, I'm not going to change my opinion on that. So I'm not saying I'm going to be stubborn and not change my opinion, but I have to see a lot more to change my opinion altogether. As I said, with new signings and new leadership, I think we still have depth for top four. I think we do. I think we have the squad. I think if we can add a couple more, I think if we can if we can add an attacker and a centre back in January, that puts us in a great position to challenge for a top four. Gives us more strength and depth in the squad. So I think that's very, very important for us going forward. Now, I mentioned potential options for us. What do we do going forward? Of course, that's the challenge right there. Um, Do we dip into the free agents market? Because I just read the other day, Tommy Asu just signed for Ajax, so players are still being signed by clubs. If they need an additional player to their squad, so do we go to that route? Do we go and see if there's a striker available that's a free agent? This is the name that only comes to my mind that is available as a free agent. There might be more, so if you guys know in the chat, feel free to let me know. But this is not me saying I want this player, by the way. I'm just presenting different options during the show today. Uh, he could be a viable option, although he's 37, I believe. So, and of course, he had a crazy car accident last year. So I don't know if he's mentally right to play the professional game anymore. I don't know in terms of his fitness. I know he's been training with Leicester, so that was a club that looked like could, sign him on the short term. So that's an option, but I don't think that is the route that we should go for. So then we have to think about other options. Do we try and sign a player on loan? Maybe a striker that's young and up and coming but needs game time, or another striker that's a bit more experienced and he's not getting enough games. So, we bring them in January for the short term. Those are sort of options that we can look into. Uh, let's have a look at the comments and then I'll present some options for you guys, and you guys can let me know. Boss says, to be honest, I don't like this talk about signs after signs. A Liverpool manager should work and do up the squad he has, but that's my opinion. I hear you, but I think because of this injury, it could unfortunately push us to look into the market and see if we can get someone on the short term. Whereas that wants us to sign a boatload of new players. Uh, we shut him down, hopefully. So here's a few suggestions. And yeah, this is not gospel. This is not me saying get these players. But these are options that I'm thinking, could we bring them in on the short term? So one is Endrick. I know, he he mugged us off a little bit in one of our games when we faced him last year, and then that involved him and Konate. But as a player, I'll be quite frank with you guys. I think he's overrated. I know he's young and he's got a lot of potential, but I feel like he made that move to Real Madrid far too soon in his career. Probably needed to develop a lot more, play professional football in the first team in Brazil, and then come to Europe in like a couple of years' time. And he's joined the club now where he's barely been featured, and now he's desperate for a loan move away. Strongly linked to a move to Lyon. So I see that being his most likely destination. But it could be a viable option. It could be someone where we can say, look, we're playing with two strikers. You could play alongside Ekitike. It could be an option there. Um, so this could be an option, even though for me, I wouldn't go for this to be fair. Now, other options could include players that had 6 years remaining in their contract. So that would mean that they are available for top price. So, like for example, we're trying to sign Mark Gahey, right? And we're trying to get him on a lower fee because he's got 6 months left. Maybe we look at the market now and see which strikers of good quality have 6 months remaining. Could we get them 6 months early and maybe pay like 5, 10, 15 million pounds to get them on board? Vlahovic could be an option for us. He's got 6 months remaining. Um, Decent striker, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know if he's still that same level player that I saw a few years ago. I thought a few years ago he was one of the hottest prospects, I guess, in football, um, especially coming from Serie A. But I don't feel like he's progressed as a player, and I feel like his development has kind of been a bit stale. So would be a decent player. Um, but I don't know if this is a viable option. Another one a bit out there is Lewandowski. We know what he brings to the table. He's got 6 months remaining in his contract. But would Barcelona sell him at this stage, and would they sell him to Liverpool? Probably not. But these are the kind of caliber players that I wouldn't mind for 6 months. Real strikers that know where the back of the net is. Of course, neither Vlahovic or Lewandowski have Premier League experience, so that is a bit of an issue. But I think Lewandowski has enough quality to come in and pose a threat for Liverpool. Yes. Why not bring back some old boys? Why not bring back Sadio Mane on loan? I don't know if it's a bad option. I know they're having a break in the Saudi Pro League, but their season will resume as it starts from August and it finishes to May. Kind of like our season, to be fair. So, is this a viable option? Because I believe he has 6 months remaining in his contract as well. Would he want to come back to Liverpool and actually have a great send off? I don't know. But if this was a possibility, I wouldn't be too mad at it. I wouldn't be mad at this as well, Robert Firmino. But I checked before I came live, in terms of where. So he played for a team called Al Sadd. So he's not even playing for his previous club, which was Al Ahly, and he's just recently joined this team. And this team are based in Qatar, so they're not even a team from the Saudi Pro League. So um, I would love to say yes because I would love to see Firmino back. He's one of my favorite players. Um, in recent time, probably even all time. To be fair, definitely in my top 10. Um, but with him just joining a team quite recently, I don't see this being realistic. Now, what about this as an option? Ivan Tony. I read something earlier, not earlier today, a few days ago, where he's in a bit of a situation where if he leaves Saudi, he has to pay back a huge chunk of money, um, because he hasn't fulfilled his contract. So maybe for him, and remember he has aspirations to be in the England squad. Why not get him on loan for 6 months and see how he does? Because for me, Ivan Tony, a boyhood red, he's a Liverpool fan, um, Premier League experience, good age. I think he's 30. Let me double check. 29. So he'll be 30 in March. So still a good age, and I feel like he can literally hit the ground running if he was to join Liverpool. So if Liverpool were looking for a loan signing, for 6 months, I'd go for this guy. I'd go for Ivan Tony. I wanted Ivan Tony when I was at Brentford, to be fair. I've always liked him, always rated him. Um, Bo says he's been arrested. Has he? Bloody hell. I got to keep an eye on the news, haven't I? Um, Bloody hell. Launched headbutt in a brawl with selfie hunters. That was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? I'm assuming he's not injured and he probably just got a slap on the wrist, I'm assuming. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a viable option, but from a footballing point of view, I think he would be a good signing. But again, not realistic in my opinion. Now, this is a bit out there because, of course, he is a former United player. But in terms of looking at profile, I wouldn't mind a player like Danny Welbeck, a player that has great Premier League experience. But even now, at 38, 39 years of age, still banging the goals for Brighton. So he's definitely a player that can have a great impact on this Liverpool team. But of course, with the United and Liverpool connection, I don't think it's a viable option. But I think the profile, he would be a really good option, and he's still able to score goals at the highest level, which is the Premier League. Another one would have been Raul Jimenez, a player that we were linked to last summer as he was available on a free transfer, but then I think he signed an extension. Player I've really rated over the years, especially when he was at Wolves. Of course, not the same type of player now, and is having to share his minutes with the likes of um, what's his name? Muniz as well, the Brazilian attacker, plus the other players in the team. So, would he want to join Liverpool on a 6 month loan? Maybe, maybe not. But that might be the type of profile players that we, end up looking at, if I'm being honest with you. Uh, and I don't know if that's the right way to go. Personally, these are just options I'm presenting for you guys. Um, Two things. Personally, I don't think we'll sign an attacker to directly replace Isak for the short term. So I don't think we'll dip into the free agency market. We won't dip into loan signings. And I don't think we'll sign a striker because they've got 6 months remaining on their contract. So I don't think that's going to be an option. That's not going to be the spiral effect in terms of what's happened with Isak today. But I do believe that Liverpool will sign an attacker, but an attacker that can play on the wings, but can also play up top. So it gives us versatility in that option. So before I present some names, let me go through the comments here. Can't the manager say no? I don't want any signings. He can have a say, of course. I personally think there's nothing wrong with signing more players. I know we signed a lot of players in the summer, but we're still missing players, in my opinion. We didn't replace Diaz, so we still have a slot for the left wing position available or vacant, I should say. Leone has picked up an ACL injury, so he's out for another year. So that's a vacant centre back position available. Um, Joe Gomez out, but he should be available. So, but he's a bit of an issue in terms of, his injury record. So I feel like if we signed a centre back and attacker, those are two positions that are filled. I think in terms of midfield, we have the numbers. The quality may be a question. Do we have adequate cover for certain roles or are certain players performing to the level? That's another debate. But we do have the numbers in midfield. And if you're a strong Bacic supporter, you'll know that he's close to returning to training. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. Because I've been hearing that for months and he's still not available. So I don't know how true that is, to be fair. But in terms of numbers, we have the numbers for midfield. Attackers we do, but I feel like because we never filled in the void of Luis Diaz, and now with Isak injured, it's a must for us to sign an attacker. A versatile attacker like somebody is a priority now, in my opinion. Otherwise, it will really hamper our chase for a top four finish, in my opinion. Boss said, did you see Joshua Abe was at the real game last night with Trent and Trent's brother? Like I said last night, Abe will leave because Lot don't care. But the youth, he has never been watching them. That's a shame. I saw a picture of him with Vinicius Junior. So yeah, I assumed he was there, but I didn't know about Trent and his brother. That's a shame if that is the case. Because if you look at Stott, he hasn't really, bar Training and Rio, hasn't really blooded in any of the youngsters into the first team squad. And some will say, well, he's only been there for about a year or so, but nonetheless, you still got if you've got great talent coming through the ranks, you've got to utilize them. And especially with Liverpool's history, and just look at the previous manager, he tried to embed as many young players as possible, especially if you feel like they deserve an opportunity. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And I'd be ashamed if Joshua Abe is looking at moves to Real Madrid because yeah, he's very highly regarded at the club. So yeah, that would be a shame. Boston watch a sign Cody Gakpo's brother. Yeah, would have put it past him to be fair. Bring back Daniel Sturridge. Yeah, if only he was fitting well, he would be a fantastic sign. But no, he's officially retired now, I believe. Ozzy said, Ozzy, I think we can do without a new forward. Yeah. Oh, I still believe we need an attacker. So what I'm saying, like let's say Semenyo, because that's the player we've been linked with very heavily. So I would like us to get a Semenyo rather than get a Semenyo and another striker. I think that's too too much going on there. So just one player that can fill the void for these sort of different roles and take it there. And you said what we need is a centre back. We do, but I still feel like we need an attacker as well because for me we haven't been pressing from the front and we need that kind of aggression up top. So yeah, Bo agrees with you. I agree, but I still believe we need an attacker and a centre back in January. Harvey is also coming back, so that's something I'm going to discuss very shortly. But yes, that is a valid point as well. Can I say Joe and Van Dijk can't be the only centre back options for the rest of the season? Yeah, I mean the centre back one is a priority. I'd probably say that's probably number one based on numbers. In terms of our attacking numbers, we still have players available. The only problem is that the ones that are backup are being disregarded completely. Chiesa might as well be non-existent. Rio might as well be non-existent. Gakpo is currently injured. Salah is at AFCON right now. So we've only got Ekitike. We've got Verts, who's having to play on the left-hand side now. So Bozda, who's having to be made as a makeshift right winger. We don't have a lot of options. And now Isak's injured now. Frimpong will have to be utilized as a right winger because that's what he did the other day, and that is a viable option. Um, so I feel like we just need someone that can play on the left and can be an option up top. But that's just my opinion. Slot won't use him; he hates him. Is that in regards to Elliot? You might be right, to be fair. But has he got a choice? We need numbers right now. Else we will be forced to use Indo and grab a centre backs. Well, that's definitely an option anyway, because if we start, having these sort of players in our squad like your Van Dijks and your Konates. Konate's, prone to injury as well. So if he picks up an injury, right now we have no centre back. We have to put Endo. But Endo's injured as well. So Groundberg will have to play in that position. So we have quite a few injuries in the squad. So not everyone is fully fit. We are like m- making players playing roles that they're not familiar with. So if we can get a centre back and an attacker, for me, that would be the right thing to do in January. Bo said, "What start celebrate Christmas in Ibiza?" Nah, you'll go Dubai. He likes to go Dubai. He's been to Dubai a couple of times in the last 2 3 months. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's down there. Uh, have you started watching the press conferences with Start Again Aussie? I have, but I have to be fair. Uh, but not the last couple to the last couple I haven't. I've been, taking, notes from different social media feeds, but no. But yeah, I'm still gonna have to, of course, especially when I'm doing match previews. I'm gonna have to be fair. What's not say before Wolves that kid is sick? What do you believe then, Ozzy? He's chatting rubbish. He's not sick. I know everyone's got a bit of a flu bug in the UK, but yeah, he's not sick. He's chatting rubbish. Uh Imposter, you are a brave man as you can't listen to him. The last couple I haven't. I think I've put it on, but I've kind of just zoned out because I've just been busy with other stuff. Whilst I had it on in the background, but that might just be my brain saying I don't listen to him. He's just talking a lot of nonsense. So yeah, take it how you will. Um, those are a few options that I've just presented in terms of potential players that could come in. I don't think they are personally. And I'm kind of like with you guys right now. I'm thinking internally, what can we do? You know, Semenyo is a player that I've said to you guys. I think we should be looking at. We've been on the pursuit for a number of months now. I feel like he'll be a fantastic addition to our team. Can play on the left, can play on the right, can play up top. So at the minute, rumors are all over the place. Bo mentioned earlier on that United and City want him, but then people say we are in advanced talks with him, or we've agreed personal terms with him. So at this stage, we don't know what to believe. But what I do know is we are definitely in pursuit of the player. So hopefully, we can make that signing official, and hopefully we can get that done soon. Another player, I don't know how realistic it would be. Morgan Rogers, of course, today scoring a brace against United. He's a player we looked at in the summer, but we just didn't go ahead with him. Maybe it was too late in the market or too late in the window to try and secure his signature, as it will require a big money fee. But if we were to get him, similar profile to Semenyo, can play on the left, can play on the right, can play as a 10. So I think he can do even more and can play as a striker if need be. So he would be a fantastic addition for me. So I would love to see a player like Rogers, but of course he would, cost an arm and a leg. And maybe that's someone that we regard as a summer option rather than a January option. But Who knows? Maybe we've got players earmarked for the summer, and we have to push that plan back to January because of the Isak injury, and then we sign them in the next few weeks. So let's see if this is a viable option. Another one, I can't do a show without mentioning one of my favorite players in Barcola, and he's a player that has not played many games for PSG. In terms of his profile, can play on the left, can play on the right, can play through the middle. So he would be a viable option for me as well. I think he'd cost quite a bit. But these would be the three players in terms of Semenyo, Barcola, and Rogers that I think, we could look towards signing in January, probably 6 months ahead in terms of what was the plan was probably to try and sign them next summer, and just bring that plan forward and get them on board as soon as possible. So whether that is on the cards remains to be seen. But I would be more pleased with this type of caliber of a signing, rather than go for a free agent or go for a player on a 6 month loan. That's not the Liverpool way, in my opinion. Even though we have signed players on loan for 6 months in January, Steve Coker. I remember signing a goalkeeper, Dave Jones, I think his name was, a Welsh goalkeeper, years and years ago. So we have signed players like that on temporary basis. But I think going forward, that's not the route to go. To be honest with you, uh, but yeah. So look, let's say that Liverpool have to look internally. What do we do? As mentioned earlier on, Harvey Elliott may return. The current rumor is that Aston Villa not happy with him. They want to cut that loan short, and they want to send him back. So how would Harvey Elliott feature in our team if he was to return in January? Now, of course, his natural position is as a number 10, so he could be cover for Verts, or right now it's McAllister. I'd start Elliott over McAllister for me. Um, and then have Verts on the left hand side, and then you've got Gakpo, and then you've got Salah, but of course Salah's not available for the next few weeks. Szoboszlai, and you've got Frimpong, Chiesa. So those are viable options. So this could still work. This will give us an added quality player in our squad. But I do feel like if he does return to Liverpool, that doesn't mean he comes back with open arms. It might be where he gets another loan move, or he might even be sold earlier than planned. So I wouldn't be too displeased if he returns, because I do feel like he's a quality player and he could definitely add something to our team. Whether Slot agrees with that or not, I don't agree, to be fair. Now, internally, we've got two players that can play that up top position. That is Gakpo and Chiesa. Gakpo, as I mentioned earlier on, should be able to return next week uh, to training. So I guess on paper, he would be a viable option. But then again, we know the drill. If Gakpo is fully fit, he'll most likely start. So he'll be starting the left wing, which would mean Verts plays as the number 10, and then maybe Szoboszlai remains as the right side attacker, and Ekitike up top. But even with that, you still have players like Chiesa who can push for position. You've got Frimpong who can play on the right wing. Of course, we don't have a like for like replacement for Ekitike as a striker, but these attackers can definitely, play that role if needed, in my opinion. So I still feel like we've got enough quality internally. But another player that's been forgotten about is Daz. Now, he's had a hamstring injury, but from what I've read, he should be available in the next couple of weeks. So he'll be back in January. So I guess on paper, we've got an option for that striker role, a backup for Kitike. And I think this would be sensible to have him around the first team squad. And if he's fit and ready, why not utilize him? But also still have the likes of Gakpo, Chiesa as your striking options. If we sign a Semenyo, for example, that becomes another option. And then you have Salah returning. And for me, that could be another option up top as well. So for me, my sort of verdict, I don't think we need to go into the market to find a direct replacement for Isak. But I would say that I still believe we need to sign another attacker like a Semenyo or that type of profile who I think will definitely add quality and add versatility to our squad. And I think that'll be the way to go. But of course, another centre back would be great. On top of that as well. So just gonna go through some of the comments and then we can close the show for today. I think that's something I wanted to get off my chest, talk about the options. So let me know what you guys think. Let's see. So Oda says it's halfway through the season, Rio can fill in Aussie. Our forward line should be Ekatiga Chiesa, Gakpo, Rio. For me, Rio's not good enough to play up top. That's not his role. He's a winger. And I know in the modern day, you think, oh, wingers should be able to play up top. He's not that type of profile. He's not player that for me that can hold up the ball against two big centre backs. For me, he's someone that can use his pace and get past the fullback. That's his game. He's not the striker. So for me, it's Ekitike, Chiesa, and Gakpo, and then I put Jaden Downs instead of Rio as your striking option, and then Rio becomes a more of a winger option, in my opinion. Yeah. So this was mentioned by Ball as well. That's what David Austin said. But let's see. Him joining United would just be horrendous. But if that's where he wants to go, so be it. Holy moly, just have a quick look at all our fixtures in January. Let's have a look. Liverpool fixtures. Yes. So from January onwards, we've got Leeds United on the 1st, Fulham away on the 4th, 8th of Jan away at Arsenal. We've got FA Cup tie against Barnsley at home on the 12th, Burnley on the 17th at home, Marseille, that's going to be tough, on the 21st, Bournemouth away uh, on the 24th of Jan, Karabag on the 28th at home, and then Newcastle. So in terms of those fixtures, I'll probably look at Newcastle as a tough one. Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium is always tricky, to be fair, and Arsenal one. But the rest of them should be winnable games. So, we can definitely strengthen our position for challenging for a top four finish. The title talk, I'm not quite there yet personally. Um, but let's see what is the case. Let's see how we do. I think that Arsenal game will tell us where we're at, to be fair, this season. But also after that PSV game, Ozzy, do you think he was gonna be our manager still or at this moment? The PSV one, I thought he was gonna get sacked personally. Um, I was quite surprised that he because we had just lost to Nottingham Forest, which was quite an embarrassment, and then losing to PSV was even for me further embarrassment. A team that's decent, but not to be smashing us 4-1 at home. I thought that was curtains personally because the run up before that we had lost 9 games, in 12 fixtures. So um, no, I didn't think he would survive. To be fair, but you know he's made it so far, so it is what it is, I guess. Um, just me that don't like Sabozat arriving. He's not involved at all. I think he's fine there, but yes, he's less impact or less effective on that position. I do agree with that, but right now slot sees him as a viable option, so we'll see. I would like to see Ping Pong given a bit more of a chance there because he's a bit more direct, he has a bit more pace, has a different dimension on that side of the pitch. Or the obvious one, put Chiesa on the pitch, but we all know the score in regards to his stance or his position in the team. But also, they also confirm so many wants United or City, not Spurs or Liverpool. That's a surprise, to be fair. If that's the case, then yeah, we move on to a different target. It's not end of the world if we don't get Semenyo. I would still like us to get another attacker. The two that I mentioned, Barcola Rogers, they would cost quite a bit of money. I think with Semenyo, he would cost a bit less due to his release clause. But let's see what the club do. I feel like I don't know. This is just my feeling. I feel like we will look at to sign an attacker in January. In terms of profile, a bit unsure of, but it could be someone like Rogers or Barcola or Semenyo. In my opinion, that would be the right thing to do. And in terms of finances, I don't know if we have it. To be fair, and I don't know how much leverage there is in terms of how much we can spend in January. But we'll have to wait and see. Honestly, 9 fixtures in 1 month with the squad we have. Don't worry. No, that's part and parcel of how Liverpool are. We have to play lots of games. This is how it is. This is the test. We've got Wolves on Saturday, then 4 days later we have Leeds United in 3 days. So we're used to playing games every 3, 4 days. That's not nothing new. It's just that the last 2 weeks we've had 1 week off per fixture, so it feels a bit weird. But no, in general terms, I'm not too worried, and I believe Mohamed Salah should be back. Let's see. Let's see what the fixtures are saying for AFCON. So he should be back mid January. So let's say Egypt were to finish in the final. The final is on the 18th of January. So that would mean that he would be the Marseille one might be too soon because that's been played on the 21st of Jan. Maybe he'd be on the bench for that. I think he'll be able to start against Bournemouth. So that gives us another attacker, another option for us in the team. But no, 9 fixtures in 1 month. It sounds like a lot. I get you, but this is Liverpool Football Club. We are a team that play in all competitions. We play games every 3, 4 days. That's natural to us. So it shouldn't be that alarming, in my opinion. Uh, with Slot as the manager, well, in January, look, you guys know my stance. I don't think he's going to get sacked. I think he'll remain until the end of the season. That's not what I want. That's just the way I'm seeing it right now. If he survived those huge defeats against PSV, Nottingham Forest, Man City, and the club didn't think that was the time to sack him, why would they sack him now when he's actually getting results? He's not playing great football, don't get me wrong, but he's still getting results at the end of the day. So that's what counts. Football is the results business. Let's not kill ourselves. So they'll keep him until the end of the season. That's when they'll look at the squad and they'll assess his performance and then take it from there. So I feel like he's going to be here until the end of the season. But then I do believe that he will be moved on, or we will sign another coach in the summer. That's my prediction. Both said I think he'll be here until 2035. I don't agree with that. I totally disagree with that. I don't think he'll be here for that long. Be very surprised if he's here past the summer, if I'm being honest with you. But let's see. I think 10 years is a stretch. Even Klopp wasn't here for 10 years, and we loved Jurgen Klopp. So I don't think that'll be there. The only way that would happen if he's victorious and he wins lots of trophies. And in that case, we've got to stick with him. Might not be the brand of football we like, but if we're winning trophies, I'll accept that. I'm not gonna lie. So I'd rather be a team that wins trophies rather than a team that plays beautiful football and not win anything. So, it depends on how you view the game. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in on this impromptu show. Appreciate your engagement. Appreciate you watching live as always, guys. Shout out to Daz, Bowl. Who else do we have? Dulu, Steve, Ozan. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, I do plan on doing a transfer show tomorrow. So let's see if there's any rumors circulating. We can discuss that. Maybe we can discuss a bit more further in terms of the Isak situation. Maybe we'll get some new links, possible players that could come in to replace him for the short term. Who knows? We'll chop it up tomorrow evening at 11 p.m. UK time. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.